The New York Islanders just got absolutely hosed in their game against the Columbus Blue Jackets in a huge game between two teams who are in a battle for the final wildcard spot. The game was tied late into the third period, when with just 10 seconds to go, Alexander Romanov managed to find the net for the New York Islanders. But hold on there, Sally.
Oh, no, not so fast, right here.
Referee Wes McCauley blew the play dead, saying that there was goaltender interference, which disallowed the goal, sent the game to overtime, where eventually, in a shootout, the Columbus Blue Jackets emerged victorious. And I gotta say, I wasn't watching this game live, but when I saw this replay, it is really hard for me to accept that this is goaltender interference on the part of Kyle Palmieri. He's not in the blue paint. He barely touches Elvis Merzlikins outside of the crease. The contact there is minimal and incidental at best. Merzlikins is easily able to reset and see around him and just doesn't make the save. And for the referees to immediately blow it dead on the ice, and we have to acknowledge that that's a big reason why this goal was disallowed. If they had said on the ice that it was a goal and then gone to replay, there's no way they would have overturned this as goaltender interference, despite what the NHL said afterwards in their video review, just reciting the very BS nebulous definition of goaltender interference, which to me, watching this from multiple angles, I don't see how you can say that Merzlikins was not allowed to move within his crease or defend his goal. But because it wasn't immediately washed out, I think the NHL just didn't want to overturn it and looked like they were putting their thumb on their scale, despite the fact that the ref made a clearly terrible call and Islanders players were not holding back in the postgame. Kyle Palmieri, the quote-unquote interferer, said it was an effing embarrassment. Bo Horvat said it was one of the worst non-calls he's ever seen. And head coach Patrick Roy went a step further, saying if Toronto's not going to overturn a call like this, we don't need Toronto. Basically saying, what's the point of having a video review system if you're not going to overturn a call that is just plain and simply wrong? And obviously there's a whole nother layer added to this in the fact that these two teams are locked into a dogfight for that final wildcard spot. Because of this result, the New York Islanders now sit 1 point out of the final wildcard spot behind the Montreal Canadiens, now who have a game in hand on the Islanders. Had they won, they would be tied with Montreal, who would still have the game in hand on them. And I know it's easy to say, well, the Islanders have been inconsistent all year. They've been blowing leads. If they miss the playoffs by 1 point, it's not really because of this one game. But when a call is this egregiously bad this late into the season, it's going to be magnified. And on the other hand, for the Columbus Blue Jackets, their playoff hopes are still very much alive after getting gifted this win. Obviously, it's not as good for them to get a shootout win as opposed to a regulation overtime win. It doesn't help them out in that regard. But they're 2 points back on Montreal, who has a game in hand on them, and they have stopped that brutal streak that they have been on over the last few weeks. So while the result is that the playoff race is even more interesting and my Chaos Goblins and the Blue Jackets still have a chance, it just wasn't worth it.